Hi, everyone. This is Victor Lund. I'm today's moderator for a very exciting webinar. We have a couple of great real estate brokers who are on the call today, and they're going to be talking about some things that they've been doing to help turn their agents into raving fans of their brokerage. And alongside them, we have a technologist, Joe Skousen from Inside Real Estate. They're the host of today's webinar and sponsor of today's webinar. And we're going to be talking quite a bit about how these brokerages turn their business philosophies into action using technology. So we're going to get started right here at the top of the hour, which is coming up pretty soon. Today's webinar will be recorded, so if you have other people on your team that may want to review this webinar, you'll receive an email from RE Technology with the recording of the webinar along with any other supplemental materials that are requested. We're also going to be taking questions at the end of today's webinar. If you look at the GoToWebinar control panel, you'll notice the questions dialog box toward the bottom. And just type in your question, and we will have the appropriate person answer your question during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So as I mentioned, we're going to get started now. It's 11 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, and so thank you all for coming. Again, today's webinar is about the secret of turning your agents into raving fans and proven ways to make money. So with that, let's get started with introductions. So I'm Victor Lund. I'm the managing partner of Wave Group. We're a technology company or a technology consulting company that works with brokerages and MLSs, associations of realtors, franchises, pretty much anybody who's using enterprise level software. I'm also the owner of RE Technology, who is hosting today's webinar. Joining us from Cleveland, Ohio, is Jeff Russell. Say hello, Jeff, so we get your voice.
Hello, everybody.
Excellent. So Jeff is the owner of Russell Real Estate. They're in Cleveland, Ohio. They're the second largest broker in that market. He has 650 agents dispersed across 11 offices. That's a really great office to agent ratio, by the way, Jeff. He's experienced $100 million of production every year over the past 77 years. Sorry, not 77, over the past 7 years. And they do about 6,200 sides, which is 850 million in volume. So Jeff, you kind of describe your brokerage philosophy as to nurture the increased productivity of the agent and to concentrate on partnering with the right people for growth opportunities. And I think that's what you brought, what brought you to our webinar today. And one of the things that you shared with us that I really love is that your motto about technology being technology with great culture makes a great company. And I'm going to really enjoy unpacking that with you. So thank you for coming to today's webinar.
Sure.
Also joining us is Ron Snow. So he's the broker owner of Remax Associates in Utah. They're based in Salt Lake City, but they cover the entire state. They have 8 offices with 150 agents. Their broker's philosophy is to empower their agents with success through training, coaching, and technology. And I really look forward to hearing about how you guys are doing that, Ron. You bring a very interesting perspective as somebody who's a franchise owner as well, deploying their own technology. And also joining us is one of my favorite technologists, Joe Skousen. He's the president of Inside Real Estate. And Inside Real Estate has been providing technology services to brokers for how many years now, Joe?
Geez, 10 years now, Victor.
Yeah. So Joe, why don't you give us just a little bit of background about Inside Real Estate. When we were thinking about this webinar and identifying brokers to really explore this idea, you kind of went through your customer base and found some great examples of people that are really accelerating their business growth through your platform. So you want to just tell us a little bit about Inside Real Estate?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the introduction, Victor. You're too kind. Well, pumped to be on here with Jeff and Ron, both fantastic brokers and a lot of business acumen. So both great people, and I've known them both for years. So very excited. We've got a business. We like to think about ourselves as technology partners as much as anything. I'm the president of Inside Real Estate. We run some technology solutions, KV Core, which is brokerage technology platform, conversion, which a lot of folks know as kind of a team lead generation solution, core back office or broker sumo, as well as core listing machine or circle picks. And so a variety of technology solutions. And really, we work with over 200,000 agents across the United States and Canada, some leading independent brokerages, some leading brand brokerages. Um, our strategy really is to empower the brokerage business and strategy. We don't think that's going away anytime soon. And we really think that you have to empower the not only the brokerage itself, but also the teams and the agents and really drive top results throughout the organization. And that's why I think this topic today is just such a great topic, because I think that's really at the heart of it. You have to empower the organization at every level. So we're pumped, and again, glad to be on here with Jeff and Ron and you, Victor.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Joe. It's always good to hear your story. You guys have, really grown tremendously to become a great partner to a lot of brokerages, especially in the last 5 years. So good job. Impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So just running through today's agenda, we're going to dive into three key topics. One is the consolidation of technology. So we're really going to talk about the decision-making process that brokers go through to either buy a sort of a platform that has all the tools that an agent would need versus brokerages who pick best of breed technologies and marry them together. So, those are two different strategies. The strategy that I think is most commonly deployed is sort of a blend of the two, but we'll get into that today. We're going to talk about independent lead channels, like how you drive leads into your business today. There's been a tremendous shift over the last decade in how brokers drive new business to their company. So we're going to talk about some of the best practices and strategies there. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is behavioral automation. So, the cornerstone of all of this is that it's all about empowering agents and giving them the tools and the resources that they need to be more productive and to help them make more money. And we're going to discuss steps that you can take to apply these methods to your own brokerages and a couple tips for success. We have Jeff and Ron here to share their stories on how they've done this, and we couldn't be more grateful for the observations that they have. One of the key drivers of the changes in how brokerages are operating and how they're developing their business strategy as it relates to not only recruiting and retaining agents, but also driving agent productivity is a lot around profitability. So, Joe, this is some information that you brought forth from work that you guys did with Real Trends last year. Can you tell me a little bit about this graph and how it came together and some of the observations that are driving change in our industry?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we think is fascinating right now is just the pressures that exist in the space. And I think every broker on the call now and out there is nodding to one or another component of the pressures that you face, and there's a lot of pressures. There's everything from kind of the consumer expectations. You've got consumers that are trained kind of by Google and Amazon and have a whole different set of expectations these days. You've got pressures around business models, right? And those sorts of things. You have pressures around the need to offer technology in a new way and what we sometimes call the value model of the brokerage. And so brokers have a lot of pressure on them these days that I think we all recognize. One of those is kind of this need to offer value to the agents and support the agents being successful in their business, while at the same time, this chart you see here, the brokerage profitability, this is just kind of on average, right? You may be higher or lower, but on average, what's kind of been happening with brokerage profitability and the retained kind of company dollar over time. And you see a little tick up at the end of that chart, but generally we've seen kind of decay on that number. And so brokers feel that profitability squeeze, we often call it, while they also feel a need to drive higher value. And our strategy and our approach is just to be very aligned with the brokerage and the success of the agents and really help them turn that curve And so if we were to overlay kind of our customers, we try to turn that curve with you, but also empower you to drive results for the agents and teams. And I think that's the context. I think that's really important. Jeff or Ron, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I mean, we're becoming more and more scrutinized. I mean, there's a lot of different ways for us to provide value as a brokerage. I mean, we've kind of doubled down on being a little more selective on who we bring in, but we're also being more selective on the services that we're providing and the different things that we're providing to show that true value.
Yeah.
And do you guys see much difference in these brokerage profitability benchmark numbers for you guys? I mean, one is a franchise broker, one is an independent firm. Do these percentages kind of play out similarly for each of you?
Yeah, I would say ours is very close. Ours is very close, and it's, I would say back in 2013 we were closer to about 20%. Right now, I want to say we're around 13% last time that we checked. And listen, I think you have more competition coming into our markets, offering different kind of models that suppresses that, and we're making it up in volume, which is a good thing. But you just got to get better at that value proposition to the agents.
Ron, is this pretty similar to what you see as a franchise broker?
I would say in our market, and Joe can probably attest to this, is, and I'll speak to a little bit of what Joe was saying, that we have this really weird, I guess, phenomenon going on in the industry where you're either going to be a value proposition broker, where you're going to offer values, which is what we try to do, or you're going to be free or near free or as close to free as possible. So absolutely, it's putting a squeeze on it. And yeah, I would say our numbers are a little bit lower. I think that I would like 14.9 right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they call them benchmarks. It's a good gauge. It's something to allow yourself to look forward to. So thank you for sharing that. That's helpful. So one of the things that obviously you want to do two things. You want to manage your top line by expanding the growth of your business, and you want to manage the bottom line by reducing the cost that it takes you to get there, right? So one of the things that we've spent a lot of time working with brokers on is the consolidation integration of the technologies that they use in their businesses. Wave Group comes in and does an audit, looks at all the tools that they're using, does satisfaction surveys to understand from the agent and team perspective which products are most important to them. We even pull data about utilization to find out which agents are logging into a solution and which aren't. All of those things allow us to sort of set a benchmark around how technology is being deployed in a brokerage, and then look for opportunities to provide growth and greater success. So with that, I think this next bit of information is fairly intriguing. So Joe, do you just kind of want to walk through this slide and talk about the research that you guys have been able to pull together on what the technology landscape looks like for most brokers?
Yeah, there was some really interesting data. As Victor mentioned earlier, we've been working on pulling together, we work with our customers, but we also work with the industry as a whole, and we're trying to pull together information and data that help us come up with the right strategy, but also help you as brokerages know how to kind of frame up the space and where you should be taking things or looking for opportunities. And so some really interesting data came out. Basically, on average today, brokers are buying 10 to 20 different technology solutions. That's kind of been the state of the industry over the past 4 or 5 years. And a lot of different brokerages have been buying everything from kind of a website solution to CRM solution. We sometimes call some of the CRMs out there cold storage, but CRM solutions, social media tools, print marketing, lead gen, digital marketing, you have a whole host of them. And one of the issues they've dealt with there is kind of this adoption, how much adoption can I really get on one solution, let alone across 12.4 different ones on average. And so there was some really interesting data there. one of the other things that was uncovered is this cost per agent, this effective cost per agent, when you've got all these different solutions that you're investing in, and a dichotomy there of if I'm a brokerage, I'm investing in a bunch of stuff, and then when we really got down to the agent level and the teams, top agents and teams were really seeing this, is on average in the market, my top agents and teams are out there going and paying another, on average, $350 a month or so toward additional technology solutions. So in effect, one of the drivers of churn that was happening out there is this perception that, hey, brokers buying me a bunch of technology stuff that doesn't really work or drive results for me that well. And so I'm out there doing my own thing, and it leaves them open to being recruited away, you know? And so there were some interesting things that we found. We found some data around APIs and single sign-ons and those sorts of things that, you know, the reality of how well those really exist out in the space. But these were some takeaways we thought were just interesting for the space overall, Victor.
Now, Ron, you're a very interesting case study because, you know, it's interesting to me that a Remax broker that gets the Bouge solution as part of your friend and many other solutions, right? Remax they've got a tool for every bolt you can imagine that's available to their franchisees, just, you know, like many other franchises. But you're actually investing quite a bit on top of that to have your own system that allows you to reflect the types of services that you want to provide to your agents and to your teams and to the customers that they serve. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you kind of work through that?
Yeah, you know, part of our solution was, you know, meeting with Joe back in the day when it was inside real estate, and then I guess what led us there was when Remax, you know, pre-Bouge, before anything with Bouge, it was, you know, homes.com. Quite honestly, the package that was built for the nation just didn't work for our local environment, and the agents needed and wanted more. And so we had to make a decision of what we were going to do. And so what we very gracefully did with Joe's help was we overlaid. So we tried to complement all of the services that were available, but some of them just didn't meet our needs, or we needed more. We overlaid it and with KV Core, Inside Real Estate, and built the whole platform. And what we found is when we gave our agents choice, then a lot of the frustration that they had, or a lot of the looking around or trying to find their own solution, we gave them that choice, and one of the two choices will work perfectly for them. Unfortunately, you know, not everything meets everybody perfectly. Some people will never adopt any technology, and others want more than even we, you know, I mean, really, you know, we have to turn them over and really spend a lot of time with them and train them, but to get them to the level that they want to be at. But that was our thought process, was we need to be all things to our agents, and if the franchise solution doesn't provide exactly what we're looking for our area, we have to overlay it.
Well, it probably helps you sleep a little bit better at night too, knowing that, you know, all your data is in your system. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a failure, like, you know, we just saw the rollout of a solution by a major franchise. I'm not going to out them publicly, but actually we saw two major franchises roll out solutions that had big problems. And, you know, I honestly, I give them a lot of slack on this, because the idea of rolling out a technology solution to 100,000 agents across 640 MLS markets, and then trying to loop in international people and making it a website CRM type of solution, that is a huge, 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 huge project. So, you know, I tend to give them a little more latitude, I guess. But yeah, I mean, these things can go wrong, but it must help you to sleep at night to know that, you know, no matter what happens, you know that you can deliver your, you know, a product to your agents that where their business will never be disrupted, versus, you know, getting in line waiting for a franchise to make a repair
Exactly.
or make or add in a component that's important to your business.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. Just the redundancy of it. And the diversity of our agents and the levels of skill in the technology world of our agents, it has worked very well for us. It does probably go back to your first question, hits the bottom line. It hits us, it hits our pocketbook. But when you're growing and we're currently able to do, we're over $900 million with 145 agents. And so you can imagine, when you're dealing with an average production of 6.5 million per agent or 6 million plus per agent, you're going to come across every need and want that there is, and having the ability to go out and offer more than what is in the general package was our idea, is be able to meet their needs.
So, Jeff, can you talk a little bit about how your company's effort to consolidate a lot of the tools that your agents use every day has sort of delivered some pretty important benefits to your agents and teams?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to adoption. We were one of those brokers 5, 6, well, actually probably about 6 to 7 years ago that, we didn't quite had 12 or 13 different solutions for everything. But even when you have 8 or 9, it makes it very difficult for the agents. And, we've always been one of the brokers that if we roll out a tool, we're providing it to our agents, and we're covering the cost of it. It became very frustrating for us as a brokerage when we started looking at some of these adoption rates and said, wow, we're paying how much for what, and this is how many people in our company are using it. And it was really eye-opening. And when we talk to our agents, I don't care how many different training classes you have and webinars and emails and videos that you send out to them all, there's still going to be confusion, and sometimes less is more. So when we first started looking, we were with Conversion, and that's before Inside Real Estate and Conversion merged. And we were one of their larger brokers when we first came on board. But when we really truly saw the power of what we're talking about right here and said, okay, there's 3 or 4 solutions we can get rid of right now because this already has it built in. Even though the agent had to learn a new system, they were willing to do that because they saw, hey, listen, everything is going to be right here. And do we still have a few things outside? Of course, I think every broker does. But the majority of what they're looking for on a CRM side or a lead gen side is accessed under one point. And that has been very beneficial for us and for our agents.
Now, you've done quite a bit with, and you mentioned in the work up to today's webinar that you kind of use this tool also to sit down and coach individual agents on their success, and then sometimes you ask tough questions like, why are you here if you're not using these tools? Can you just tell us a little bit about how you handle that? Because I think it's a pretty fascinating discussion. You have an agent who's not selling and they're not using your tools. How does that conversation go?
Well, to touch on what Ron said, I agree with him 100%. I think this industry is going 2 different ways. You're going to have agents that just park their license and discount brokerages and work off 100% model, and whatever comes to them. And then you're going to have brokers and agents that value the relationships together, that the broker's invested in the growth. The broker wants to see them do great things and become better and better agents through education and technology. But we will sit down with an agent, a struggling agent or agent who is kind of on the fence as to, okay, where are they going in their career? And, we open them up to these tools again, and we say, hey, listen, you're saying you're struggling. How, you have 70 leads sitting here in the back end of your system. What have you done with them? You have the ability to market every single listing internal with our organization and use some really great tools to do that, to generate more leads. How come you're not doing that? Why are you not doing that?
And the number one answer is, I don't know how to log in.
Well, you know what? Honestly, you laugh, but I swear if I hear that one more time, I'm gonna, I can only send the login so many times. It's not that hard of a process. But it's the little barriers. It's amazing sometimes, and I'm sure everybody on this call can identify with what I'm saying. The barrier to entry is not that hard, but it's the little things that trip the agent up, and it's our job to make sure that we are providing ease of use, right? That comes from consolidating your tools. That comes from providing clear direction as to where agents need to go for what, and plugging into the education that your software provider provides. But also handle some of that internal. We do a lot of that internal, and that's what increases the success rate.
Yeah,
Do you guys use
I was gonna just
email
mention there that.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Victor. I was going to mention there that I think you're absolutely right. And there's that little box in the corner drives higher productivity. I think it's easy to talk about that generally, but like you're saying, Jeff, the reality is when you have gaps in your solutions, there's so much that gets lost there. It's not just the login.
Yep.
The ability to coach an agent on what actually worked versus didn't, and for them to see that result gets lost in the gaps of technology all the time. It's one of the big kind of issues in the space. And so I think you guys were using a number of integrations. I think one of those was the testimonial tree integration, I believe.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. That's, I mean, one of one of the things we're most proud of in our organization is 99.2% of our clients will recommend us to a family or friend, and those stats come from testimonial trees. So to be able to integrate those directly into our website and different ways through KV Core to make that seamless, so it's actually going out to our clients, we're getting those reviews back, all that stuff helps. And the more, if you don't have technology that's integrated, the API solution, it makes all the difference. If they're not integrated under one, there needs to be an API that lets them talk to each other.
Yeah,
That makes everything easier.
Flow.
Yep.
That automated flow of kind of sending the testimonial requests at key times and doing those things made a huge difference. I think your guys's flows on that became even more effective as we kind of got those things hooked up. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another trend that we see emerging in this area is that brokerages who use a particular coaching style or sales technique, like ninja selling or a Tom or Ferry program or whatever, those, you're able to actually take the activities that the coach is professing for success and melt them right into KV Core so that all of those activities are prompted and are aligned with the kind of coaching and training you're doing in your business. And that's made a tremendous difference for a lot of brokers. Now, I know that, Ron, you talk a lot about simplicity. And are you guys a Microsoft shop or a Google shop for email and stuff?
We're a Google shop.
Yeah, so a new agent comes to your company and you assign them a Google account, they load it onto their phone and they log into KV Core and suddenly all their customers are there. That must blow their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a few pieces of technology that we use, like Google. The other one would be, we have an integration through our mortgage platform through Avenue, and KV Core integrates with that, and it's pretty impressive. It's very quick, very fast. It's all, we can plug them in, and everything downloads for them.
Yeah, we did an analysis of a brokerage last year, and we found that it was taking an admin 2 hours to onboard every new agent because they had to go and create the profiles of those agents across, all what we saw in an earlier slide, all 12.4 applications, create a username and password for each of the agents, and then send them all those usernames and passwords, hope that they remember them, and then train them on how to use all those products. It's chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ron's got an interesting value prop. Again, a lot of this is about what's my value prop these days, and then how do I make that work together in a super seamless way. And Ron, one of the things I think that has been impressive is the way you guys have combined technology and then some of the personalization or customization options for top teams and agents. That's always a desire for those top teams and agents, is to personalize and customize a bit. And that's one of the things I thought was interesting as well, is how you guys have kind of been able to take tech and then, because it's integrated and because it's all tied together, actually offer some services in-house to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, we utilize it in our marketing department, which is technically a separate company. It's Associates Marketing, and they will, when we have that high producing or even that agent who just wants something unique and special and different. Well, you see, Joe, we've been able to do it. We've been able to provide it. We've been able to put it at a very high level and take care of their needs.
Yeah, it's been great.
How? What's the status of this back office integration with Booge that you guys are doing?
Yeah, we've. But I guess from my standpoint, Ron, then I'll let you. I know, for us, one of the big areas, a lot of the front end systems in the past, whether it's a CRM system or a website solution or lead generation solution or marketing solution, haven't had really tight integration with the franchise or the back office, systems out there. And so we've been very excited to kind of break down that barrier and make sure that things like onboarding of agents and roster management and down to kind of transaction and accounting systems, that we can just really break down some barriers there and have some very tight seamless integration. So that's been very productive. We've been working with Ron knows we've been working with the folks over at Remax to try to make sure that that's as streamlined as possible. But that's important for us because in the end of the day, again, it comes back down to the brokerage, the team, and the agent. Even though you've got a franchise there and relationship, you got to be as efficient and productive as possible across those.
Just out of curiosity, have you gone as far as to be able to, like, say I get a lead from Remax.com and it comes down and goes into KV Core and I'm working that lead, are you able to use the API to give updates back to Remax on the status of that lead yet? I know that's sort of a long-term challenge.
I probably need to be a little cautious on how much detail I go into here, but I'll just say that right now we're, as you know, some of the Booge rollout and things has been more recent, and so we're working through some of those details with them now, actually, and I think it'll continue to make the experience more productive, effective, and higher conversion rates than ever on those sorts of things, and that's where we're all very much aligned, Yeah.
I know, like with Realogy, a lot of the brokerage set up their lead router solution so that when an agent gets a lead, until they provide an update on that lead, they don't get another one.
Yeah. And so automating that has been one of the big efforts over this last while, and it's as it now has kind of reached fruition on that. That's been super productive.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into leads a little bit. This is an area that we think is really going to be changing pretty dramatically. It already changed, really. I just don't think that the industry has reacted to the change. There was a gift in real estate when the portals came along because brokerages were spending a phenomenal amount of money on newspaper advertising. I mean, we found that, relative to, the sizes of the firms that Jeff and Russell have, you're looking at high hundreds of thousands of dollars or low $1 million numbers in newspaper advertising, which went away, thankfully, because that was a complete waste of money. And now that was sort of replaced by portal marketing and portal advertising. And I'm not sure whether it was Jeff or Ron, but I think one of you guys in the prep call said, yeah, I mean, there's no opportunity for brokers to even use Realtor.com or Zillow or any of those companies anymore. I don't know which one of you made that comment, but can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, we spent a lot of money, and when we made that transition from print into the portals, we spent a lot of money on lead generation for the agents directly through those portals. And you ran into two problems. The portals ran into the problem of, hey, these leads weren't being contacted because the brokers in most cases were giving it to the most productive agents, the listing agents that were already running ragged and doing a bunch of different things. So they weren't getting the calls back, and we were looking at an ROI that didn't make any sense, and it kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And it just wasn't a good marriage on either side. So, I mean, you still have, I think, a lot of agents in the industry that have built a large portion of their business on some of those portals. And, you got to be very careful as to, you're kind of at the mercy of the business model and the cost per lead as it keeps accelerating, going higher and higher. That's drastically affecting your ROI on these. But, I don't think there's a lot of room anymore for the brokerage in those models.
Well, they pretty much cut the broker out.
Yep.
They only sell their services to agents now, and their
Yep.
model is moving from a cost per thousand to a cost per lead, and now we're seeing the emergent in some markets to a referral fee. So they are changing their business model pretty dramatically, and really they've taken away the opportunity for brokers to leverage the online portals to drive leads into their business. So I think for me, the theme of 2020 is going to be the death of portal marketing to drive leads from the perspective of the broker. So you guys have had to pivot and start to do some different things, and I know you've transferred the investments from your portals into other types of activities. Jeff, can you just talk about some of the things that you've done? And you were talking a lot about lead fatigue and how you were able to solve that in your business.
Well, I mean, it's, as a brokerage, I'd love to say we solved it, and we have the answer that's revolutionary. But what we ended up doing is we started shifting a lot of those funds into social. So Facebook ads, Instagram ads, taking that, we call it squeeze pages, taking a real estate search and marketing into a group of people that are interested in that search through Facebook advertising, individual advertising on listings. So we do Facebook ads for our agents. Every time they list a home, they do a price reduction on a home. They do open houses, and so we do a small ad spend on that, and then all those leads through Inside Real Estate get driven back to the agent that is responsible for them. So I mean, it's we were looking at taking our cost per lead when we were with the portals. A lot of times we were spending $40, $50, $60 a lead, even 70 in some cases. And now we're coming in contact and getting leads for our agents between $2, $3, $4. So it's much more cost effective to do it that way, and we're generating more leads.
Ron, is your experience any different?
No, it sounds about the same. I mean, we're doing the same thing in the sense of we have agents who live their lives. I mean, they were paying $5,000-$6,000 a month for leads from these, like you said, these big portal lead systems, and they dried up. And so now we're teaching them. We're taking a completely different approach. Saying, hey, we'll help you. We have an in-house marketing department that'll help you. Or let us teach you how to do this yourself. Let us teach you. So we're spending a lot of time on training them to teach them the old adage of let's teach them how to fish, and let's teach them how to fish. And what we've done a couple times, there's two scenarios that we'll get. We'll get an agent who has we've generated a lot of lead for, and they aren't calling them. I had an agent come to me, and he was really frustrated, and I could see through the system that he hadn't even logged in or even tried to call them. So I just offered him. I said, okay, let me give you $5,000 for those 5,000 leads that you have over the last couple of years. I'll just buy them from you. He said, well, what are you going to do with them? I said, well, I'm going to hire somebody to go call them and turn it into money. He of course was not selling to me. But the other option we get is they just don't know how to get into the social. So we are spending time training them, teaching them, working with them, and then of course we've been supported tremendously, by Joe and his team on those efforts. And some of them catch it, and man, when they do, they never turn back. And so a lot of this is educating the agents on how to go fishing, how to fish, how to provide for themselves.
Yeah, I know one of my favorite quotes that Joe Skousen has is, with our system, you need to answer one question. What do you have more of, time or money? And what I love about that is that the systems that you guys have deployed allow an agent who just wants to throw money at lead generation to set it and forget it. and have managed marketing campaigns that are driving consumers to squeeze pages and generating leads so they can focus on what's happening in their CRM. Lead comes in, they go into a drip marketing program, they follow the training that you guys have, and it results in sales because the system is doing a lot of the work. But for agents who don't have money, maybe a new agent or an agent who just doesn't have a lot of capital right now to invest in growing their business, you guys have a solution that allows them to go do it themselves. So they can log in and create these squeeze pages, and the brokers are training them how to do it and do the social media marketing and begin to connect with people in their community that they know through social media and other things, and start to really activate their business that way. I mean, it's super impressive. Ron, do you find people, most of the agents I know, like all of your agents seem to be superstars relative to the number of trades per agent that you have in your business. Are they doing more of the automated marketing, or do you find a combination of both, or do you see a more teams sort of having somebody on their team just focus on the digital marketing side?
We see exactly as you described. When they're short on cash or they're newer or they're getting going, they're doing it themselves. They're learning how to do it themselves. They're saving, they're doing their own spin. As soon as they hit a level where they're starting to have good success, they turn it over, and they like to know how to do it, but they don't want to do it anymore. And so they're able to have a once a month meeting. They do their little marketing meeting. We get their direction, and then it turns into really an automated process that they really don't want to be involved in, but they love the early. They understood it and knew, and they know what's going on, and it gives them, when they understand what's happening and they've gone through a few of the in-house classes or watched the webinars. We watch the webinars all the time to learn more, and then we try to, we take that out to the agents, or we try to get the agents to watch Joe's webinars. But when they see the picture, they're more likely to just spend the money, because they realize there is work being done, and it is hard work. And it is, when I say hard work, it's consistent work. It's doing it all the time, every time, the same, and making it better each time. And as they do that, then they're more likely to just say, you know what, here's my budget, and I understand it's hard work. I don't want to do it anymore. Please do it for me.
Now, yeah. Jeff, you've sort of taken that to a new level in your company. Like, you have dedicated lead development teams and digital marketing people and stuff like that. Can you just talk a little bit about how you've been able to recapture the ability to generate leads for agents in your company?
Sure. So these, the same concepts with the squeeze pages and the, marketing searches, and to people that are interested in those searches, doing some just basic Facebook ad lead generation through the back end of the system. We want to still offer a lead source internal where we're cultivating and generating leads for our agents, but that is only a portion of it. We expect them to go and do this themselves as well too. Whether, once again, like Ron said, they hire Inside Real Estate to do it themselves, or they learn the systems. Once you learn how to do these type lead generation, you learn these tools. They're not that difficult to use, so it's very simple to do. Some agents just want some help with it. So we have found it to be very cost effective, and the agents that are truly taking advantage of it are very successful with it. It's just, it's the same people you're seeing on these portals. It's just a much better price.
And Jeff, when you guys generate leads through your marketing department and pass them off to a broker, or pass them off to an agent or a team, is that for a referral split, or do you just keep, or is it just a value add of being a Russell Realty agent?
So for their own listings, when they list a property, we do pass it back to them with no fee. But if we're doing squeeze pages where we're taking a search and marketing it to a group of people who are interested in that search, then we pass it off as a fee lead. So we have a little bit mixture of both.
And for either of you, have you seen like leads from portals just dry up and evaporate? Are you getting any?
From the brokerage?
Yeah.
Standpoint? No. I mean very little. It's not coming in, if you're not spending money, you're not really seeing much benefit. Our agents, we still have a lot of agents spending a ton of money with those portals, and some of them are rethinking that position. But from a broker standpoint, we're not yielding a lot of leads now.
Yeah, I mean, you guys see the reports on lead by lead source, so you're obviously seeing what's happening. It's pretty awesome. Joe, when you guys started putting these tools together, can you kind of talk about what the spark of innovation was that brought you to delivering on these?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of what Jeff and Ron have both said, you can kind of hear it that as a brokerage, you have to be able to be self-reliant with your lead generation and business generation activities, but it's about empowering the agents as well, right? So, this time or money question, we ask it all the time, when an agent comes in, and you can very quickly start to point them in the right direction. But like we've talked about previously, when you think about what they have to do if they don't have the right kind of technology platform behind it and the right kinds of lead generation options and things, they're out there trying to figure this stuff out on their own. It's not that agents aren't trying to drive business. They're just typically wasting a bunch of time and money as they're out there trying to figure out what to do. And so what really drove it for us was seeing all of the effort out there and then taking it kind of on ourselves to say, you know what, we can provide, whether they're trying to spend a little bit of time or a little bit of money, we can provide some much better paths. One of the key examples of that over this last year is we saw just how much money was being spent on Facebook, for example. And we got together, we took it on ourselves to just go get together with the corporate team over at Facebook and say, when you see people really spend money the right way on Facebook and it drives the right level of return, what does that look like, And we took that data together with the data and information that we track and have. We drive 1 to 2 million leads a month every month, right? So we drive a lot of that. We track capture rates down to about a hundredth of a percentage point and things. And so we took all that data together and said, let's kind of use that sort of thing, that sort of information, and make it as intelligent and automated and easy as humanly possible. And let's maximize every dollar spent, And so we did that, and that Property Boost product that we have is a part of that. But we also used it to just optimize every bit of flow in the system. And that's so that whether it's your newest agent or your most experienced agent, they really can kind of see the returns out of every dollar, every minute spent doing that, rather than trying to figure out how to loop systems and lead flows together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just, I don't want to speak over some of the attendees of our webinar today. I see a couple notes. People are saying, what is a squeeze page? Can you just explain what a squeeze page is in 2 seconds or less?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we have some of these terms that we've come up with over time. A squeeze page is basically, if you're advertising on Facebook, there's a set of things that you can do that lead to maximum kind of capture rates and the best kind of lead. And what you want to do is you want to create the ad on Facebook. You want that person clicking through to go through to your website and land on the search results that match to it. And you want your capture logic, like, do I want to capture them on the first or second or fifth click or after they're thumbing through images? You want all that aligned. What squeeze pages is basically a tool we've built that automates that. So you can go pump in some basic criteria. It knows how to build all the logic for you and spits out a link for you that you can put into Facebook, and it'll build the ad in Facebook and things for you. So it's a tool that even if I am going to use time instead of money to go get some leads, I can really compress what maybe was an hour process or 2-hour process previously into about 30 or 45 seconds. That's kind of what the squeeze page tool is.
Yeah, I mean, they call it a squeeze page because the intent is, I may create an ad for listings in this neighborhood. I may market those listings in that neighborhood to that neighborhood, like a 15-mile radius. And then all of the click-throughs that I get from my ad on Facebook go to this page about that neighborhood. But that page is designed specifically for the purposes of giving them just enough information to get them to register and to save their search and to engage and provide information to the agent for retargeting and for following up and putting them into drip marketing systems and things like that. So
That's
all
right.
of this is designed to get a new customer and then use the power of the system to maintain that relationship with the customer. And I think that's illustrated best on this page with some of the automation that you do around new listings. So you kind of want to just walk through what's going on here. I know Jeff and Ron have this deployed in their company already, but just explain this to us.
Yeah, this is this shows kind of two things. This you can use squeeze pages and do this kind of manually, or we have this this product that we worked on this last year with Facebook called Core Property Boost that automates that whole thing for you, and including some spend. But basically, a listing comes in and hits the market, and ideally, as Jeff mentioned earlier, you want to take that listing, create a kind of a link for it that is a link over to your website. The search results are right around that listing in that neighborhood, in that area, in that price range. And you want to then target people on Facebook with that link and with that little ad. That's going to drive business right to your page and capture that business and pump it right through to your CRM system and execute some follow-up. The Property Boost product is really just an automation of all of that and really ties into then our kind of follow-up and behavioral automation as well.
Well, I want to move now to behavioral automation. Ron, you talked earlier, and I think Jeff mentioned it as well, that a lot of times agents need a little prompt to know what to do when an event happens in their lives. And not only KV Core, but a lot of technology vendors have begun to introduce things called automation, but other ways to look at that is machine learning and AI. So AI is just sort of one of those things that it's when a machine does something that a human would naturally do. And you guys have programmed a lot of AI into your product. Jeff, can you just talk a little bit about how automation has helped you to support your agents at focusing on selling and not focusing on doing the little tasks that they have to log into their CRM to do?
Sure. And I think part of it, Victor, comes down to the life cycle of an online lead. I mean, you may be coming in contact with somebody 2 years before they're actually ready to buy a house. So, I mean, I don't care how good a real estate agent is, 99% of them aren't going to follow up with a buyer lead the way they need to be followed up with for 2 years. They're going to drop the ball. So, having those little touches, really helps. And, when we were preparing for this, we were looking at some numbers. We had, in the last 90 days in our company, we had 1.8 million search alerts and touches, go out to the leads that we had in our system. And that's great because, 99% of those were self-generated. And sometimes you get the agent say, well, hey, I wouldn't say that, or, that's not, the verbiage I would use. And, I always go back to them and say, you're right. You wouldn't use any verbiage. You just wouldn't communicate with them. So, just let it work. So, it's a way for, I tell my agents all the time when we explain this, it's really like it's a behavioral learning system where a lead goes in, it markets to the client based on their activities, and then it prompts you when you need to contact them. So, if the agent allows it to work, it makes their job a lot easier.
And they sell more real estate.
Yep.
How's this working with your group, Ron?
To add on to what Jeff said, there's the upside of the immediate, but there's also that 18-month, two-year down the road buyer. And what it does is, in the old, not in the old, but in the way we train with, keeping track and classifying, maybe the Brian Buffini way of, hey, A, B, C, D on your leads. Well, instead of deleting them, or you have a C lead that you're trying to get to move up, you can throw them in the AI we'll touch them, we'll notify you, we'll keep them up. And we have seen many times where after 18 months, somebody raises their hand, is what I like to say. They raise their hand and say, hey, we're ready to buy. Well, in most agents, CRMs, they've forgotten about it and they're gone. In our systems and what we're training, what the agents are doing is they're saying, hey, no, I'm still valid. I'm still here. You didn't delete me. And the system kept working for me 24/7. I like to say that, the great thing about it is when somebody jumps on and starts searching after they've been off for 6 months at 12 in the morning, by the time you get in the morning at 8 to start your business, you've been notified already, usually once or twice. And then you log in and you say, hey, they're ready to do something. They just looked at 35 homes.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. Joe, can you talk about how the system prompts an agent to talk to a customer based upon their behavior of the customer?
Yeah. What we have found is that you really need the 3 steps here. You really got to have the behavioral tracking. So it's tracking everything they do from image views to everything else. But we're also using third-party data. Have they had a life event? What's their occupation, social profiles? There's all this sort of kind of AI going on in terms of the scoring and the rating. And we're using that to trigger automation that gets them in touch, like you guys have talked about. So I'm going to get engaged with 2 or 3 times more leads than I normally would. But what we're then doing is we call it kind of empowered follow-up. And what that is when I wake up every day, I'm going to open up my phone and look at my mobile app, and it's going to tell me who I need to talk to today. And it actually cues it up on a little what we call the mobile dialer. And I just hit my money button. I hit the talk button, and it's going to bring up the person, what they've been looking at, what they've been doing, and why I need to talk to them today. And not just for my new leads, but also, as Ron and Jeff mentioned, on my sphere, people who've been in there for a long time. Because, Danny, the guy that I know and have known for years, may have just had a life event, and he's likely to transact. And oh, by the way, he's on my website shopping around again. So it's going to kind of tee that stuff up for me and make me a more intelligent agent and give me the kind of information and talking points that I need to use with that person. So that's the idea, is that it really kind of empowers that whole flow, and as an agent allows me to kind of focus in my efforts, right?
Excellent. Well, we have a few minutes left here. I want to just kind of wrap it up with a few key takeaways and invite each of you to share some of your views that you would tell another broker as it relates to our topic here today. And then we'll jump into the questions. So, Joe, can you just talk about what some of the key ways are that a brokerage should start consolidating their technology to achieve the kind of results that Jeff and Ron have achieved?
Absolutely. I mean, quickly, I think the thing that I would say is you'd be surprised just how much of that solution set can kind of you can consolidate, and that's going to save you dollars. It's going to save you time and pain, but it's also going to allow these results to materialize in an easier way. And so the first step is really starting to kind of just list those things out and say, what can I consolidate? What does that mean for me? Obviously our folks are happy to help with that process, but that's really the first step, is just starting to really list it out and look at it and say, what could this mean for me if I could consolidate 3, 4, 6 of these different solutions and really focus instead of we sometimes see these RFPs, if you've never seen those, a request for proposal, that are a million
I think I've
questions
sent you
long.
some of those.
Yeah, Victor always sends them. That are a million questions long and miss one key question, which is results. What results is this going to drive for me and my agents? If you start with that question, that tends to lead you to the right answer a lot faster.
Yeah, and I think both Jeff and Ron are seeing 130% increase in lead conversion as a result of having these pretty powerfully tuned systems. Do you guys, Jeff, maybe you could give some thoughts about consolidating your technology to what you would tell another broker?
Just listen to your agents. A lot of times they're telling you this, that there's just too much. And when there's too much, they shut down. And when they shut down, they don't use anything. And then they go out and spend money outside, and it takes away from your value proposition. The key to consolidation is, consolidating, but also training and making sure, there's a cost, there's a financial cost when you do something, but there's also a cost to implement it. And, you got to take those two both seriously. And, you might not be with the right solution now, and that's okay. You have to make a change, but, you got to lay that out and say, okay, what does that look like? And, what can I get rid of? What is essential? What do I still need? All those things are things that you just got to think about and listen to your agents.
Ron, your thoughts, key takeaways?
Key takeaways are very much in line with everyone else. Is you got to listen to the market. You've got to listen to your agents. You've got to see what's going on and pay attention. It's moved in the 5-6 years that we've been involved with Inside Real Estate. And I'm that guy. Joe brought us into the system, and unfortunately for Joe, I reach out to Joe every time I have a question or a problem. And I know he's not the guy, but let me tell you, they have never ignored me. He has never not done or everything possible to work through whatever issues or whatever we're trying to do. And that's probably the key takeaway that I can, or a plug I can give, is they've been rock stars in attending to our needs and taking care of us, from listening to what our agents say and we take it to them, from listening to what we see or seeing what's happening in the market and we take it to them. They're continually innovating, they're continually developing, they're continually delivering new products to us. And that's why the relationship works for us.
I'll second that.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna stop the recording here.